India's really become the Harlem Globetrotters of cricket.
Salem Globetrotters. Okay.
Meanwhile, Ashwin is playing Raja of Palayambatti Shield, but okay.
TV umpire to director, we have a player review. Can we rock and roll, please?
Hello, and welcome to Bits and Pieces, the cricket podcast that was the true inspiration for baseball. If you believe that, you're the right person listening to the right podcast because we do no stuffy analysis, we don't have any deep booming voices, we're very loose with the facts, and we are the uncles who sit together and ask, did you watch that match last night? Today is our 27th episode. We are officially entering the 27 Club. For all those of you who don't know, the 27 Club is a list that consists of popular musicians, artists, and actors who died at the age of 27. Coincidentally, 27 is also the age of Shreyas Iyer. And while we hope he lives a long and fulfilling life, we found out last week that he is totally dead against the short ball. Let me introduce the entire panel to you. Starting off with the Brian Jones of this podcast. Brian Jones is the founder of Rolling Stones, and here we have Tony, who kicked off this podcast and created Bits and Pieces, much like how a Rolling Stone gathers no moss, but a Rolling Stony gathers no toss, because Tony has a lot of things to say about the toss, because toss advantage greater than home advantage. Hi, Tony. Say hi to me.
Hi, thank you. Also, very famously, my two favorite captains, Virat Kohli and Sanju Samson, never win tosses. So, yeah. No toss for me.
Then we go to the Jimi Hendrix of the group. Say hello to Srinath Sripath with his amazing dulcet tones and the great guitar, all along the watchtower using IPTV. Please say hi.
Outed me like anything. I'm trying not to. I'm trying not to burn my expensive mic as we speak. Thanks, PGK.
Also, now say hi to the Janis Joplin of this podcast. It is Janis Joplin. Say hi, Abhishek Chopra, El Chopornos.
Hello. Good to be back.
All right. And all the way from Seattle is Kurt Cobain, cartographer.
Yes, you got it right. Yes, I was going to petition for Kurt Cobain if you had said something else, but yeah.
Right.
But thank you for that intro.
Yeah. When I scribbled this 5 minutes back, I had Jim Morrison on this as well for Murli Satgopan. But Murli is asleep and is not here at this podcast, which sounds a little ominous, but we know that's how Jim Morrison does. And I am PGK. I am the Amy Winehouse of this podcast, who is somehow in this club, but nobody knows why, and it doesn't really count. Welcome, everybody. Let's get started.
Amazing.
What do we talk about? we actually just started this and saying, what do we talk about? We actually spent more time thinking about the intro than what we have to talk about in the podcast. All right.
27 is also the run rate at which Bairstow and Root were going towards the end of the test match against the best bowling lineup in the world and not shit like New Zealand. So I think that's appropriate episode number.
I want to say very successful Bits and Pieces jinx, by the way, whoever was on last week's episode. So I'm looking at you, Chops and Srinath.
It wasn't just
Nitin was all excited about, oh my God, we might actually see an Indian victory. In fact, I think you guys signed off with, okay, that gives us a little more time to hopefully, see the victory. And predictably, things went the way they go.
I actually remember there was a point in the WhatsApp group where, after the first innings, where I very confidently said, now India can't lose. Okay, now it's just a question of draw or win. No, clearly India lost. First reactions from everybody. Slightly unexpected loss, but thoughts from everyone now that they've had time to process it?
It's very fitting for Bits and Pieces that the morning after a T20 series win, we're moaning about a series loss from 6 days ago. That's how quickly this all unravels, right? Like, we're all about the reverse, effectively. Whatever doesn't happen is what we're after. But no, man, like, it was insane. Four in a row. I think there's some good things, obviously, like 6 months ago, England were 1 on 20 tests, or 4 months ago. They lost I don't know, we couldn't count how many they'd lost in the last 2 years, when suddenly like there's this whole Bairstow showing himself up as another guy who could hold his bat apart from Root in their entire batting order. But now like mentally where I'm at is like, come on man, you guys have won, but like Stokes is talking like they're number one for 10 years, right? I was just hearing just before this episode of Tailenders, the BBC podcast. Apparently, within the dressing room, with 20 runs to get, Stokes asked Jimmy Anderson if he wanted to pad it up and hit the winning runs, right? and Jimmy said, "Come on, that's disrespectful. You shouldn't be doing that," and so on. Then he went to Stuart Broad, who also said no. And then he went to Sam Billings and said, like, Bilbo, this is your chance to win. Hit the winning runs in a big test match. Billings also said, no, you should do it. You're carded next in the batting order. And then the story goes that there's 4 of them, none of them wearing pads for the last 20 runs of the test innings. And they're all joking, like how this is a school game and how this is worse than a school game, that nobody was padded up. Like, this is the level of talk, right? Imagine us doing this after winning in Ahmedabad, saying like how good Akshar Patel is, that the coaches have all gone home, Ravi Shastri is sleeping and whatever. Like, this is what we should be doing, guys. Every time we
Ravi
win at
Shastri sleeping is probably true.
Srinath, you remember, I think India did this to England at Mohali long ago. Iqbal Siddiqui came out to open and hit the winning runs.
That's true. Yeah.
So maybe, he had revenge on his mind if his history mind.
I really doubt Ben Stokes knows who Iqbal Siddiqui is.
At that point in time, Ben Stokes was still a Kiwi, so...
I think the other opener was also a bowler, if I'm not wrong.
Probably Tony's earlier favorite, Tino Johanan, if I'm not wrong.
Are you serious?
Wait,
No.
Tinu Johanan actually
No way,
opened the
dude.
batting?
No.
Wow.
They were not contemporaries. They were not contemporaries.
Right, yeah. No
My
way
my
they were,
only
yeah.
contribution to this, to the cricketing world, is to tell them how it's not Tinu Johanan, it's Tinu Johanan. But yeah, moving on.
Yeah, I think I'm still up in arms about the fact that Ravindra Jadeja decided to bowl the line and length that he did. It was just so painful to see, in Indian spinner do that negative sort of bowling to Bairstow and Root, even before they were anywhere close to being well set. I mean, when the fast bowlers were not doing well, at least at that time, you thought that he would come and bowl with a proper angle, proper line and length, but it was just terrible to watch. And I mean, even till Friday, in the office chatter about cricket, I was still, going on and on about it, and people had to actually ask me to shut up. So I think I'm never going to forget that.
We'll never ask you to shut up here. Go on.
Neither
kind
will our
of
listeners, because there aren't any, but yes.
That's right, yeah. No, but it's kind of fitting, right? In the 90s, England's spin strategy was Ashley Giles, and now our spin strategy is Ashley and Guile. So the Ashley is Ashanna and the Guile is Jaddu, but yeah. Thank you.
Well done.
So, I mean, my take is completely different, right? It's basically, they say tragedy plus time equal to comedy, and I guess time right now is 2 T20 matches, so everyone's forgotten the test anyway. So I want to use this opportunity as Indian uncles to say, we can laugh at ourselves, right? So if you were ever stuck on some alternate universe where you couldn't see cricket scores, and the only way to sort of figure out how the game was progressing was the great cricketers' views count by day, right? It would make for fascinating viewing. I actually just went and looked at it, right? So on day 1, the great cricketers' review of the test had 228,000 views. Day 2, 165,000. Day 3, 84,000. And then day 4 and day 5 dropped to 24 and 30,000. Right? So
As opposed to this pod, which is flat like the Edgbaston pitch, right? Like
the day 5 Edgbaston pitch.
Yeah, I think my take is that maybe a little bit like Tony off, because tragedy plus time is equal to comedy. I think 2 things stood out. Number one, although it was very painful for us to watch as supporters of the Indian team, I think it's really good for Test cricket. You'd never expected this to come up of all places in England. And I feel like baseball, more than anything else, is just marketing and pure marketing, and there's nothing else around it. It is just that. And I feel like the marketing is so strong that it has convinced the players, it has convinced the spectators, it has convinced the media, it has convinced everybody that there is something big and different that's happening over here. When I think all that they have done is just said, just go see what happens, just swing it around if you feel like it. And it's a little bit like a thing like the Matrix, almost like free your mind, and he's jumping. I mean, nothing has changed. You're still in exactly the same place, but it's a very, very strong marketing thing. In fact, there was an interview with Brendan McCullum couple of days back, and Brendan McCullum said that I hate the term baseball, and he himself is also saying that, look, I never came up with this, and quite honestly, it is not just blind hitting. That's not what it is. It is just a mindset thing. You just have to free your mind a little bit. You just have to play around. You have to look at your strengths and weaknesses a little, which is what everybody is saying. The most interesting thing for me was that for 120 years, everybody used to say in order to win test matches, you need to get 20 wickets. Right? Now, suddenly that's gone. In like a week, everybody has forgotten about that. I said, no. The way to win test matches is now to go blind out hitting. No, but as if nobody has figured this out. We have been playing ODIs for a while. We have been playing T20s for a while. Not one team has said, hey, wait a minute. Maybe the way to win test matches is just to start hitting like crazy. Now, suddenly in 2022, they have figured it out, it seems. So, yeah, a lot of this is nonsense. And I think we'll find out it's nonsense very soon.
It's also 3 years late to one of the fundamental tenets of Shazball, right? Which is
There you go.
which is Baad mein jaye pitch, right?
Baad mein jaye everything. Like, just go out there, grab the ball, Ash, grab the bat, whoever, and, just... Yeah.
Guys, we were making memes. They're doing like front page stories saying baseball. Like, this is the difference.
I say the English cricket establishment is basically the iOS of cricket, right? Which is basically, features that have been on Android for 10 years will come to English cricket, right? And then it'll be, we have discovered how to win at this game that, everyone's been playing for 120 years. And this is how you play this goddamn game. Never mind that we finally figured out how to win ODIs and test matches after 100 years. So yeah, it's basically that. And baseball is the RDF, the reality distortion field.
No, the next logical progression in the iOS journey is to obviously remove the headphone jack leech out of the team because what is he doing there? But I mean, I just want to bring this back to the uncledom that we displayed. Before that, I just want to call out on the last episode, Srinath finally admitted how shit New Zealand were. And on this episode, he's giving credit to Shazball. It is very gratifying as an older uncle to see you finally coming around and accepting the truth, Srinath. Well played.
I think he's in
Kudos
shock.
to you.
It's PTSD from the last day of the test match.
I think it's accurate to say that it's kind of PTSD, but also like New Zealand are really shit. That's
the reason why I say that this is all marketing is simply because in an alternate universe, I can imagine India doing exactly the same thing with the way how Rishabh Pant plays in like Australia. At the end of the GABA, at the end of everything, they say, yes, this is a new form of cricket that we have found out, and it is called, I don't want to call it pant ball, but something. And then they continue it with Shreyas Iyer in Bangalore, in a completely crumbling pitch where everything is going on. Shreyas Iyer goes completely berserk, and they say, this is how you bat in a crumbling pitch. We have
Shreyas Iyer did that in Birmingham also.
That's true.
But I mean, also in our defense, in the Australia tour, we were going around and asking, in fact, not even tailenders, we were asking people not even in the original squad, do you want to pad up and bat? Because we had no other option at the end of the day. Like, please, can you pad up and bat? Like, you go to Washington Sundar, you go to T. Natarajan. Guys, please, can you go out and bat? So.
When are England touring India next?
That sounds like an Ashwin sledge on the stump.
I want to see how long this baseball thing continues. Except now, I think the next set of people who are touring Australia are probably South Africa. It'll be really interesting to see if they are able to do this against.
You mean England, right? But also
Sorry. Touring England. It'll be interesting to see if they can do this against.
They're touring Pakistan this autumn, which is in 2 months. So,
England? Yeah,
England,
I'll believe it once they have actually stepped in. Please.
Look, Moeen Ali is making grand plans. So, and he's been promising that he's going back to the country of his parents, his origin, and whatever. We'll see.
I hope for Moeen Ali that this works out, right? But again, color me surprised. The last time an England team toured Pakistan, to all intents and purposes for me, is when Cyril Ratcliffe went and drew that line. That's it. So like,
This back to the Indian perspective, right? So I think the moment when Uncle Takes peaked on Twitter was when Vijay Lokapalli put out a tweet to say, "I must admit I am deeply embarrassed by my misplaced faith in this Indian Test team that figured in the Birmingham match. Took their win for granted. Hope they don't repeat this rubbish. Angry emoji. We want them to do well. Do they feel sorry for fans of Indian cricket? Maybe, maybe not. Full stop."
This is like one step away from Uncle saying that Virat Kohli should not tour with Anushka, his girlfriend, because that is very distracting. You should get married immediately. Stop the distraction.
Yeah. No, but just to put things in context, right? I mean, you set 378 in the fourth innings. You should win 19 out of 20 times. But we said the same thing when, during the last two South Africa tests as well, that at least one of them we should have won, man. Like, it was like an 8 out of 10 kind of odd situation. The only problem is we seem to have lost 3 in a row. I mean, I still don't think there's any need to panic. The Indian test team is still set up very nicely, and this is anyway like a one-off test, not part of the five match series. Let's clarify that, which we won 2-1. But I think, it's one of those weird situations where things didn't go to plan, right? At least in South Africa, you could have said that those were the matches where every dismissal was a catch for South Africa or something, and Bumrah just
and
still
Dean Elgar
continued
must
to
have
attack the
played and missed like some 50 times, and he just got
Yeah.
super lucky. I mean, he played really well too, but he got super lucky.
Yeah, but at least, the only thing that you can point a finger to is, did we bowl the right line and lengths? Here against England, it was just a flat pitch and it was just like a weird day. I don't see too
and
much
I think it's pretty
reason to worry.
clear now that, apart from the line and length of Jadeja, it's also pretty clear that there are certain limitations for Shardul Thakur, and we know what that is now. It has become apparent now. Like in certain kinds of pitches and certain kind of conditions, he's just not able to. He's not the person you need, and I think we know what that is now. I feel like that's another interesting learning.
The ultimate hope is that Hardik bowls enough to come back into that position, right? Like whether that is more control or not.
I don't see him wanting to come back.
It's a lot of work, and it's 5 days. He's just getting back to 4 overs, so that's the ideal scenario. But also, I felt like, Ishant was pretty bad in the last Test match that he played, but effectively, it's that slot that is kind of unoccupied now. Siraj is a supremely solid attacking bowler who was always after wickets, but what you needed here was holding one end up when Shami and Bumrah were really tired. Like at one point they were bowling, I think every 12 or 13 overs, one of them had to be bowling, which is not a good place to be after you've picked 5 bowlers. So it kind of felt like, I don't know, like there's too many things going wrong in one place.
Yeah.
I would sort of disagree with what Tony said. I think the second innings collapse is something that we have to be really mindful of. I think it's happened quite a few times now, to not take that into account the next time we sit down to plan for a test match. Even though 378 seems like a huge total, and Tony's right when he says that 19 out of 20 times we would win with that. But I think the second innings collapse is a thing of worry, for at least for me. I think the other important thing is our fast bowling bench strength. Prasidh is someone we are looking at for the Ishant role, and he's not been blooded for that. Other than that, none of the other upcoming guys like Avesh or Navdeep, etc., either they've not gotten a go till now, or they've gotten a go, but they've not really been up to the mark. So, if God forbid Bumrah, for example, gets injured in an away tour, or Shami is off color for a few tests, I'm not really sure what our bench strength is like, and not everything is going to turn out like the last Australia tour. So, I think
Ajinkya Rahane
succession
can no longer
planning-
be captain. So
Yeah. I think we don't have that service anymore. So it'll be interesting to see how India shape up for the succession planning of a few important positions in the squad.
Like more than all of this, right? Like these are all legit reasons to think about. But one thing I didn't see across all these 4 test matches, whether it's New Zealand or India, New Zealand obviously came with 2 batters, but India, at least the whole point is there's never a time when the team batting third batted out enough time to set a target of, let's say, even 378 at a required rate of 6. Let's see what Basball does then, right? Like we always give them enough overs to make it look like it's a 4.5 an over chase and not like a crazy chase that they actually pulled off.
Yeah. I think this series and this set of test matches is probably going to be a bit like the Lakshman Dravid 2001 test, in the sense that teams will really struggle going ahead with their declarations. And I mean, for now it's just England, but given that Australia played a pretty similar brand of cricket back in the day and they didn't have a name for it, it's going to be interesting to see how things are going to turn out in the third innings of a test. How teams really go about putting up their target and number of overs to leave, etc.
Yeah, and India must petition the ICC to change the rule in such a way that we can get Pujara to bat only in the second innings. Is there a way to substitute
Bat
him?
twice in the second innings,
Bat
like
twice
Jadeja
only in the
did.
second innings. I mean, I've lost track of the number of tests where the whole Indian team in the second innings is like practically collapsing, and there's only one strong, stodgy 60, 55, 70 from like a Pujara. This has happened so many times now. It's not even like funny. So
Yeah, and on the dearth of fast bowlers, right? Basically, after the first T20, someone tweeted saying, "What is the procedure to have Bhuvi playing tests again?" To which Krishna KRM at Krishna KRM on Twitter rightly pointed out, the only way that can happen is if you change the format from 5 days of 90 overs each to 90 days of 5 overs each.
Which is what the IPL will be next year, 90 days. But yeah.
Yeah, I just want to say kudos to Jamie sir for taking a successful overseas winning team and turning into whatever this is. Our complaints with Shastri was that we win all of the matches but don't do well at ICC events. Jamie sir has reversed at least half of that by making sure we lose everything away.
Here's to WTC
I'm guessing the
final
ICC
again.
trophies are on the way.
It's great to remember, right? Like the thing we used to crib about was, yeah, you're winning, but don't talk too much, right?
So, like, we know one way to fix that.
No, I think it's one of those things, right? I mean, one of those arithmetic properties. England are the white ball champions, and we have a superb record against them in bilateral series. So guess who's the champion now?
But in general, I'm very surprised that this panel has not even mentioned once that should we have played Ashwin. Like, guys, this is like
partly because for 2 reasons. One is that Ashwin did play in the last 2 games in South Africa, at least the last game, or did he play the last 2 games? I don't remember. But he played. Like, one of the chases that India basically relinquished, Ashwin was playing. So it didn't seem to make much of a difference. And second, and I think we've also understood that this was a reasonable 11. I mean, of course, personally, I would have loved to see Ashwin play, but this was a perfectly reasonable 11 looking at the conditions. So it's fine. But I think the one thing now it's clear is Shardul's limits are clear. It's unclear if Ashwin can even like do better. We don't know, but we know what Shardul's limits are.
Yeah, and to Chop's point, also Jadeja's limits, right? That was some shameful bowling, man. Like, what was that?
And who has Mohammad Shami pissed off in his life? I don't know. To be so unlucky. Literally, is there a bowler?
TGK, we do know that actually. But can't talk about it.
So unlucky, man. I mean, that the Shami unluck at England especially has been going on. That curse has been going on for like 5-6 years now. They said that in the 2018 tour. They said that last year when they went. This happened in this test also. It's like some curse is happening on Shami when he's like touring England. It's easily the best bowler. I mean, I would say he was probably even better than Bumrah at certain parts, even when Bumrah was getting wickets. And Shami was just amazing, but absolutely. It's time to talk about Virat Kohli, guys.
Yeah.
It is time. It's time to talk about Virat Kohli.
Johnny Bairstow is going through the purplest of purple patches, and Virat Kohli is going through a perplex patch. Like, what is happening? Like, I mean, his second innings dismissal can still be one of those freaks that you can call out to say Ben
And he was batting quite well
Stokes.
before that.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I have no
But
answers.
we've been
but I
talking about
think-
that for such a long time. Like, you know,
Yeah.
oh, he's been playing really well. But that one unplayable ball came his way. It only seems to come his way. But
I think what he needs to do is go to Lahore and get pushed into the pool into which Alex Carey fell. It's the only way the curse can be lifted.
Yeah, anyway, he's been asked to go to Pakistan after he supported Shami in that episode. So yeah, might work out well.
Exactly. I don't think, like, as so many have said, and Shastri leading the way there again, about him having to take a 3 month break from cricket or whatever, but it doesn't look like that's the problem, right? Like, whether it's his celebrations. Yesterday he was standing in front of like the most raucous drunk section of the Birmingham crowd, which is the Holly stand, and egging the crowd on to give him more and so on, and celebrating in front of them and all that. So energy wise, it doesn't look like that's an issue. He's not anyway playing cricket. He's rested from half the T20s that India are playing somewhere or the other. So I really don't know what the solution is. Like, obviously it can't be the same technique that got him to 70 hundreds that suddenly become a problem, right? Like, it is perplexing. Tony nailed the word there.
I think somehow everybody who suggests that a player who's out of form should take a break or whatever, it's the equivalent of, in Indian society when something is not going right, uncles and aunties always have a solution. They're like, oh,
Get married.
you're not get married. Get married. Oh, you're already married. Have kids. Oh, you already have kids. Like, there's always this thing, right? So I don't even think it actually matters. They're just like, take a break. Things will get better if you.
I mean, Michael Vaughan also said it so fittingly, right? Like, yeah, Indian uncles do that.
Michael Vaughan is like the biggest uncle out there anyway. So it's like honorary uncle.
Yeah, but I thought it was also it was a little surprising to see that Kohli has been rested in air quotes from ODIs now, because I really feel that format is probably his best bet to get back to some semblance of form.
Yeah.
And if they're going to keep him away from that too, I'm not really sure how he's going to come about to his usual.
There are no tests, right? Chops for the rest of the year. There's only one.
Yeah, I
test.
think they have a couple of them against Bangladesh or one of them,
Bangladesh,
and then the next one is Feb March Australia, which is going to be a.
oh, Australia is just Feb March. I thought it was the end of the year. I thought
No,
it was
it's
like
next
October,
year.
November. Oh, it's
No.
next
It
That's
was,
their
but then
home
like the
season.
T20 World Cup is there, right?
Yes.
So I really don't know how Kohli is going to come back to form. He, as someone mentioned, doesn't get to play enough. They're always giving him breaks for God knows what reason. And yeah, I don't think a break is going to help much. Maybe he should
But-
bat left-handed or something. I don't know.
But are you saying like the opposite is true, that he needs more match time to get back to a run again?
Yeah, I think I don't know. I mean, it's a very old school thought, but maybe going back to something like first class cricket would probably help. I mean, just less publicity and lesser level of bowlers who give one freebie and over to sort of score a boundary off. Maybe that's the answer, but it's too old fashioned a thought, and I can't see Kohli doing that ever again. But I mean, that was the way cricketers of the earlier eras used to come back to form. They would just get dropped, and there would be not much shame in that, and they would go back to play first class cricket and come back. And I mean, Ganguly has done that. Sehwag has done that.
Yeah.
Lots of recent cricketers' names we know of have done that.
Or maybe the answer is to go and play for county cricket in England, like how Pujara did. And clearly now he's back. Do we think Pujara is going to continue to play?
Sorry,
Do you think
but philosophically, moving to the domestic trophy is and to come back stronger is basically like Ranji Kant to become Rajnikant in the second half. I'm
you
sorry,
interrupted
just had
my
to
important
get that
Pujara
out
question
of.
with that particular joke. Okay,
How do you steer the discussion from here, PGK?
I don't
Come
know.
on.
Now nothing like this. Okay, now I'm going to ask it very straight with no segue. Pujara. Do we think Pujara
He's back.
is-
He's back.
But do you think he stays?
See, I mean, basically, number 3 was either Hanuma Vihari or someone else, right? Which Vihari really has not particularly shown anything that Pujara can't do right now. So I don't see why he gets a go. Pujara is still only like 32, 33, something like that. So I think he's got a few years in him still.
Yeah,
And
I think-
especially against Australia, right? That's when both Kohli and Pujara are going to peak, if at all. So I think I'd definitely play Pujara in that series.
This is one really random butterfly effect thing, right? Like everyone's giving him credit for going to the county championship and playing, but that's because he was unsold at an IPL auction he chose to list himself for. It's weird.
Wait, let me correct you. He was sold. It's not like he was unsold.
No.
sold.
That was the previous auction.
Previous
This time he wasn't.
Oh, sorry, you're right.
Yeah,
CSK,
this is,
yeah.
The applause was last season.
Oh, really? Wow, it's like-
Can I ask another question?
Yes.
Who is going to be the Indian Test captain, given that Rohit plays like 1 out of every 3 tests, and Kohli obviously can't captain?
Maybe we need a home captain and an away captain, given how Rohit doesn't complete Test series abroad.
Yeah.
I
Home
think
captain,
we should-
100% win record. Away captain, whoever comes into.
If we do that, then there's actually a good chance for Ashwin to be home captain. It's only when you basically say that there is like a common captain, that's when Ashwin goes away. But if you say
Right.
home captain was away captain, I don't see why not Ashwin.
We should take a leaf out of Gandhiji's book, and we should, instead of having a captain, we should have like a panchayat basically. So there is a sarpanch, but we'll have rotating. Now last week we discussed on the episode, right, that we've had 10 captains over the past year. So everybody, it's like Pakistan in the 90s. Everybody's been a captain, and you give them a go again. So just institutionalize the thing and have rotating captains.
My first thought on seeing that graphic was we had 10 captains, not one of their names is Ashwin, right? Like that's...
Oh, there we go. Yes. See, that's back.
Yeah, poor guy, man. I mean, it's... I think he would have fancied himself quite a fair bit ahead on that list, but given we're playing 3 teams at once these days, it's inevitable. And he features in none of them, so that's also there. That's so, difficult.
I mean, given how innovative Ash Anna is, he's more likely to captain England's T20 team before he captains the Indian side. But yeah, it's like-
Maybe he should be the captain of the non-striker, and given how he does those dismissals.
But seriously, I mean, considering the Bangladesh and the Australia series, that's the end of the WTC this time round. And Rohit, I'm guessing, is going to be less and less available as the age catches up and, aches and pains become more frequent. The captain cabinet doesn't look all that promising.
I actually think Bumrah is a pretty solid chance, and I feel like Pant is the next obvious one. I think that they're pushing Pant to that. Although, based on what we are seeing in the IPL, at least, I mean, Pant is like nowhere close. He has a long way to go.
We started this year with anyone but KL Rahul, but slowly we are moving towards anyone but KL Rahul and Pant and Rohit and Bumrah.
And Bumrah.
Yeah.
Hey, maybe like Davis Cup, we should have a non-playing captain or something.
That was Kohli for the last couple of years, right?
Shubman is the future. All right, cool. That's the test series.
Quick.
Oh, one more. Say it.
No,
Okay, fine.
quick roundup on the WTC table and how
it's
basically
fine.
India's realistic chances are. And I think they're pretty good, right? Because South Africa have away tours against England and Australia, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes,
And
Australia at
they
the end of the
start, they start playing England the next month, right? And high on baseball, it is very unlikely to for South Africa to pull off a result there, which means they'll automatically drop to about 50% win rate, which will put them below India already. So practically, it should be an Australia-India finals in 2023, unless something drastically goes wrong, like we lose against Bangladesh in the Australia series at home. But I think India holds all the cards still, which is why I'm not all that worried, except Srinath has informed us that the WTC finals will be in Lords, or were you kidding?
No, that was announced, I think. I mean, it's not officially announced, but like some news reports were there about Lords.
Again, they will take Ashwin there. Again, they will make Ashwin sit there. Ashwin will say this time, listen, you guys go. Right? You call me after day 2. If there is something, I'll come. Can somebody summarize what's happening in the T20s? There were like 3 matches played. I actually haven't watched any of them. Sorry,
2
2
so
matches
far.
played. Sorry,
Yeah.
3
2
is
so far.
today, 3rd is today.
Third is today. All right. 2 so far. Can somebody summarize what happened? All I hear is Deepak Huda.
So 3 T20s, first of which featured the squad from Ireland, but led by Rohit Sharma, right? That is first permutation.
Without
So,
Sanju Samson.
Without Sanju Samson, of course. Like if you could voice it in italics, that's what you just did. Amazing. so Rohit Sharma led the team. Deepak Huda, Surya Kumar Yadav, Pandya, Hardik Pandya, and
DK.
Akshar Patel, who for some reason started the first game. So Huda, actually the main theme so far has been India have come out with like, we want a boss from ball one, play basketball in T20s pretty much.
Finally.
And
About time. Little
Getting like
5 years too late, but okay, at least they're there.
two T20 World Cups later, we hear. So I think there've been power play scores of like 60 odd in both the games, and the first game was brilliant with Hardik Pandya doing like almost like a risk-free 50, as he called it, and which is true as well. Like he's playing really, really well. Bowling-wise, it feels like Bhuvneshwar Kumar has sealed his spot in the World Cup. He's been swinging it, man. Like he's swinging it hoops in England, where like the opposition has been getting absolutely nothing. I mean, granted, their attack was Reece Topley, Sam Curran, and Sam Curran, to his credit, actually swings. And that was their attack. Chris Jordan and so
It's not so bad. I mean, they've played, so it's okay.
they've played. So the main thing for England is no Bairstow, no Stokes. Root doesn't play, so those two are missing. And
Why are they missing? They're also rested, is it?
they're playing the ODIs, which are coming up next week. Good cue.
Did Butler
Joss
play?
Butler, PGK, by the way, is the captain.
Butler's the captain.
But he played.
Yeah.
he's-
Butler's the captain. Owen Morgan is one of the main pundits for Sky now, and he was joined by Stuart Broad yesterday, who's, as we know, a T20 bowling expert. So he was there.
in tests also.
Tests also. But yesterday was like the second T20 was a really good test because wickets kept falling, right? India lost, famously now in England, India have lost 3 wickets to Richard Gleeson, who was making his debut. We can talk about him. Apparently, really good story. He hadn't started playing professional cricket till he was 27. He's 34 years old, closer to retirement. But comes on, picks up Rohit Sharma, Kohli and Pant casually. And
How
despite
do you
losing-
know
yeah.
it was his debut? Just look at who Kohli got out to, and you know his debut.
You're making all the jokes before any of us can. Well done. And Rohit Sharma was really good in both the games. Like he first ball to Moeen, he just swept him. It's kind of the risky stuff he doesn't do in T20s. He's waiting for like the power play to end, then he'll launch and whatever. But T20 series won with a game to spare against a near full strength England. That's the summary. Really, really nice.
I think one thing that I definitely add is how Arshdeep has bowled. He was handed a debut and in the first game, and I think the second over in the England innings was a maiden. Both batters were all at sea against him. He was swinging it both ways, doing hard lengths, doing full lengths, and I mean it was just the kind of over that makes butterflies flutter in your stomach about a new talent coming through. It was just so good to watch. I think he picked up a couple of wickets in that game and really bowled well. So that was one good thing to see. The other thing.
Sorry, he's the next big left-hander to play for India after Barinder Srant. So.
Unadkat, man.
Oh my God.
Yeah, no, Khalil, Unadkat, there's a long line there. I think the other thing was, which is, I don't know, disappointing, if I can call it so, was how Huda was, again, dropped in air quotes for the second T20 to make way for some of the bigger names. That guy's been having a really good run across the Irish tour and the England tour. So suddenly, when you are in the best form of your life, at least on the international stage, you've just made a debut, to be rested, dropped, I don't know what they call it now, is a bit.
Can I take like a minute to wax lyrical about Huda, man? Like what a turnaround. Like the guy comes at number 3. I think the main thing to be said is a lot of these guys making their debut and playing for their places with 2 games and so on. They are extremely risk averse, right? Like these are guys who, try to nurdle some singles, hit a couple of boundaries, and then see what happens at the death. That's what the T20 we've seen, like the style from India for the longest time is. Guy walks in against England, like there's Moeen Ali coming in and causing all kinds of problems. Of course, he's batting right-handed and so on. The guy just steps down, risks a stumping or whatever, just smashes him for 2 sixes. One of which I think fell right next to Shaz in the commentary box, and they were making fun of each other, right? Like it was basically now they're doing commentary from a pod on the ground, at the edge of the ground. So Atherton couldn't see the ball, so he was closing his eyes like that and waiting for the ball to come, and it landed right in front of them. So Shastri comes on with this booming voice and is like, "Who the man?" and so on. Like it was amazing. Like it was really. But no, like the guy is playing for his place and really, really doing well. I mean, Ireland, of course, 100. It's still Ireland, but coming in to do this against England was really cool. I hope he plays the 3rd game. We'll know by the time the pod releases, it will have been done. But I really hope he gets it on.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is also how there's this theory now that taller batsmen in T20 have a good chance of doing well given how they have reach, etc. There's a whole Cricket Monthly article about it. So I guess he's a good addition to the squad, and he's got that experience of IPL, lots of experience there. So I hope he's able to sort of catalyze this Indian batting approach even more than what it is right now. And there'll be days when he'll not come out, but guys like him and Sanju really deserve to go.
Well, good. Well done.
So I guess
that was a sly note to editor, which is me to say don't chop out my bits. I'm gonna throw the Sanju Samson. Yeah. Well played.
But anyway, I guess we know now that the jinx is in. We know who we are jinxing this episode. So Deepak Hooda for third T20, the jinx is in. Well and truly in.
I purposely didn't talk about Surya Kumar Yadav for exact reason Kart mentioned. Like, don't want everyone to go off in 1 week.
Hold someone out of the jinx.
Yeah.
I mean, from my standpoint, I get why there is some Chops was like disappointed that they didn't pick Hooda, or they dropped him or rested him. I feel like from Dravid's and the team management standpoint, the information that is far more valuable to them that they want to find out is, does Kohli still have it in him to play the T20, as opposed to, I mean, they know that Hooda can play. It's like continuing to keep him is not going to change that knowledge, but they don't know whether Kohli still has it in him or not. And I don't know, I feel like he'll still make it to the squad, but I don't know, I can see a situation where they may not pay him for a game. He may come down with a niggle. I feel like these things may happen.
Yeah, actually, on that note, it's probably good to have a rest when you're in your purple patch, because Dinesh Karthik has had a pretty tough time of it, and his reserve ticket to Australia has now moved to reservation against cancellation. So maybe it's a good thing to quit while you're ahead.
Sanju refreshing Tatkal website, is it?
There's another test series happening, and that's Australia's playing Sri Lanka. Let's talk about it. At least the backdrop in which the test series is being played, which is quite bizarre. I'm a little torn between whether it's a good thing or a bad thing.
Yeah, no, I think several people pointed out on Twitter that maybe the players should be taken to safety, especially after what Australia ended up doing back in 1996 and what they've ended up doing this time around. So, I mean, that's a thought and a half about whether cricket should go on in such circumstances. And it was also really good to see the foreign journalists, the Australian journalists, as well as the Sri Lankan ones, focusing quite a bit on the protests that happened yesterday. And it seems like a bit of a watershed day. You see history unfolding in front of your eyes with the swimming pool and the presidential.
Literally watershed.
Yeah, watershed. Yeah.
Yeah, quite a bit of watershed.
I mean, I guess you could. You can sum up this series as they're running away with it, except it's nothing about the cricket. It's the Rajapakshas running away from it.
You gotta give it to them. Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, but I mean, on the cricket front, I watched quite a bit of the Smith Labuschagne partnership yesterday, and it was quite amazing. I think Australia's really turned the page when it comes to touring the subcontinent with how they went about it in Pakistan and how they're going about it in Sri Lanka. Uh, Really good tactics, and even right now, a few hours ago when we started the pod, Sri Lanka were just about 100 behind in the first innings tally, and you'd expect an Australian captain to sort of remove all the close-in fielders against spinners at that sort of stage. But Lyon was bowling with a leg slip, and short legs. Even Swepson was bowling with, I think, a couple of close-in fielders. So the tactics have been really good. The reverse swing has been really good from the pacers. Stark has come about well. He's using the wobble seam quite a bit. Lyon has finally probably figured out how to go about it in Asian conditions, and I think he'll be really be a handful when it comes to the India tour next year. Uzi has been absolutely bonkers in Asia. So yeah, I think really good to see Australia do well in these conditions. Sri Lanka were laid low by, I think, 3 or 4 players getting COVID in the squad. And I mean, it would be unheard of a test to go on in those circumstances. And we all know how the Edgbaston test finally came around. With the greatest ever book launch in the history of but the test went on. They handed out 3 debuts, and I think one of them, Prabhat Jayasuriya, bowled really well, but Smith and Labuschagne were really good with the bat, and everyone around them batted decently, and I think it's poised very interestingly. Not just the test, but also the test for the government. So yeah, will be interesting to see how it pans.
Left arm spinner named Jayasuriya making his debut at number 9. We've heard that before, right? Seen that before. But very timely share from Kaus of this pod, not here today, about how the protesters stormed the presidential palace and then turned on the TV to watch the test match. This tweet will now be in the show notes, but well done, guys. Like, priorities, because apparently a lot of the protesters at the Galle face and the fort who were forced to climb down from the test match. Obviously, like, this reminds a bit of the CAA NRC times when the test match was happening in India and people were asked to take off anything resembling a signage or wearing black or whatever, right? Like, there's so many of those things. Similar things seem to have happened in Galle, and the guys basically left the fort the face and went to the center of the town, essentially because there's thousands of them thronging there, and they all said, like, if we want to watch a test match, that's exactly what we're going for. So we have a country where we can stage a test match. Like, that was like, man, well done to all of you, because a lot of them were driving from really remote parts of Sri Lanka without fuel, some of them walking and so on. And the government obviously cancelled buses and trains from Galle to Colombo so that these guys couldn't join the throng at the presidential palace. Like, it's crazy. Obviously, you cannot condone public property being razed, but such is the dire need in the country that it's gotten to this point.
So in all this, I didn't realize, but Pakistan are supposed to go to Sri Lanka and play again 2 more tests at the end of the second half of this month.
You could say this at any point, and I would say yes. Like, any point.
No, apparently, I don't know. I mean, I just looked it up. I think there are 2 tests scheduled for July 15th to 28th. So I don't know. We'll see what happens, I guess.
July 15th. That's like 5 days.
It's now.
Yeah. I'm not sure. I got to check again, I guess.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe.
Are you looking at the right year?
Yeah, maybe not.
Hey, but hey.
No, I think you're right. I did see something from...
Pakistan tour of Sri Lanka. Yeah, Sri Lanka board presidents 11.
Which probably
first test, second.
Probably the board president is like
president?
underground. Okay, which is
Yeah. Hey, but are Australia in a strong position? After having like 2 centurions, they wound up for 364. Not that I'm watching or anything, but like it seems like...
Listen, I'm not saying a word because 27 episodes later, Marnus has an away ton, right? Yeah. I'm not saying a word.
Bring the ham and cheese toasty.
yeah. Wasn't Maxwell supposed to play this? And
Yeah,
then
he
the
was-
last
he
minute
was
they
supposed
decided
to-
not to.
He was supposed to play at number 8 in place of Stark. And
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. Do you think he's messaging Ashwin? You think he and Ashwin have like a WhatsApp group?
Like a support group.
I feel you, bro.
This is one of those groups, right? Where there'll be 10 people, 8 people exit and it's a DM thing, but it's a group between the two of them.
I hope Sanju has an invite at least to that group.
I mean, we didn't talk about this, Tony, but like, I feel equally worse for Prithvi Shaw, man. He's not even in the third. He's not even in the
Seriously.
third 11, guys. Like, it's,
He's the real, like, one of the real T20 players in India is Prithvi Shaw. Precisely why they won't play him, because like it's too T20 to be played in.
it plays into Chops' theory from Cricket Monthly, right? Tall batsmen do well. So Prithvi Shaw, obviously, like nowhere in the picture.
Yeah.
I think it's time for India to have two legit 11s, right? At least for T20. Because there are just too many players, man. Like the moment you like have one bad innings, then you're almost
The crazy
guaranteed
part
that
is
you're on your way out.
the crazy part is if they have two 11s, both of them will lose, because the thing is that they will try to distribute them across the two of them, and both of them will have weakness, and both of them.
This reminds me of
this weird part.
I think Srinath, was it Sahara Cup and Commonwealth Games back in the day, and both we ended up fluffing.
There was 95,
Yeah,
right?
they had-
There was this famous thing in Australia where Australia and Australia A were...
That was for the tri-series. They had an Australia A team. Yeah. That was fun.
But those games had a lot of needle. I think Mark Taylor ended up really hating how
Yeah.
the typical Aussie crowd ended up supporting Australia A more than Australia because, underdogs.
Yes.
So, yeah.
But also Australia A had a much better kit for that as well. So it's partly the reverse. They had the majority green and
You're the Nithins of kits, man. Cart, amazing stuff. You remember everything.
Sundaram kids.
Well, Nitin Sundar himself is also the Nitin of kids, but to your point, I think it was the 98 Sahara versus Commonwealth, right? That was when we had to split the squad.
Cool. On that note, I think we should just call it a day. So next
And look forward to the ODI series, PGK. Come on.
will be now. Okay.
Wait, so Kohli is not playing these ODIs? Really?
Is there?
I'm just going to
Is there?
look at
He's
this.
there.
Who is
So
there?
where's he
Lord,
dropped? West
I
Indies.
lost track. What is going on?
I don't
Who's in
know.
the
Nobody
squad?
knows.
Is there? ODIs is there.
Ah, okay. So what's he dropped from? The West Indies tour. Which is
Later.
what? Like some random tour. Is it part of the ICC Super League?
Yeah. There's
Do West Indies know we are coming? Like
Two-
this is-
2 games in the US, man. Come on.
Okay, I'm just looking at the ODI squad. Rohit Sharma, captain. We don't know if he'll play, but okay. Shikhar. Oh, Dhawan is here. Oh, wonderful.
Oh, Shikhar Dhawan.
Yes, ODI specialist.
I
that's-
forgot.
Oh, speaking
Wow,
of, I think
Dhawan.
last episode Nitin Sundar manifested Shikhar Dhawan into being captain, and I think he's the captain for the West Indies series,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, he is? Okay. Wow.
Yeah, he
Oh,
also
so wait,
captained
so
in Sri
they're
Lanka,
resting
right?
Rohit Sharma for the West Indies.
Yeah, Rohit Sharma and Kohli for the West Indies series, and yes, Shikhar Dhawan captain during the Sri Lanka series,
Wow,
which is when for anyone who plays fantasy IPL, every uncapped player became a capped player. So like that really messed up our.
This is proper CTS situation, no? Like anyone who doesn't go basically doesn't have US visa. That's what is happening.
So help me understand. So now Rohit and Kohli are rested, but Dravid is going to go with this team. Or is he going to
Yes,
send
not
Lakshman
playing.
and say, I'm also resting, you go?
Lakshman is going to Zimbabwe.
Oh, there's a Zimbabwe also. Oh, a Zimbabwe? Okay, all right, fine. Okay, let me
Is
just
that
finish
in parallel?
I think it's parallel to some other tour. I don't think it's the West Indies one. I think it's parallel with Asia Cup.
Yeah, Asia
That's what
Cup,
it is.
It's,
I mean, at this point, is it BCCI is like a cricket organization or a travel agency? Like, what is going on?
Come on.
We found a nice deal to Zimbabwe, so we'll send team. What is this?
Okay, I'm gonna look at the squad for ODIs. Rohit Sharma is the captain, Shikhar Dhawan, Ishan Kishan, okay. Virat Kohli, Surya Kumar Yadav, Shreyas Iyer, Rishabh Pant, Hardik Pandya, Jadeja, Shardul Thakur, Chahal, Akshar Patel, Bumrah, Prasidh Krishna, Shami, Siraj, Arshdeep.
Hashtag BedXBall.
Okay. All
You know,
right.
PGK, you could have read any set of 15 names and we would have not batted an eyelid. I mean,
That's true.
the thing, yeah.
Even I'm like, I don't know what to say at the end of it. I'm like, okay, I see. I guess this is okay.
Hey, there was some talk about Ashwin coming back into, is it
Yes.
T20s
Yeah.
or
T20.
ODIs?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, both Jamie sir and Rohit have told him that you are in our white ball plans.
Just like how they told him you are in our plans for the
Right.
fifth test in England, and then he thought that a lot of people, Ashwin fans, were like, yes, this was the final conspiracy of Kohli and Shastri. They could not hold him back until the fifth test happened. They're like, oh, okay, so it wasn't just Kohli and Shastri. I see.
Get the white ball, Ash.
Hard to say. I don't know how he'll come into the. I mean, even if they take him in the squad, I don't see how he'll fit him in the 11. It seems like a very.
Yeah, I think the whole sort of calculation is messed up because we are playing everywhere else except Australia where the real World Cup is, right? With and stuff like that, which is why
Hey,
I
but
guess.
they've announced that they're going to arrive super early for the World Cup and they're going to have one of those
Why not?
camps.
like Karthik said, is Thomas Cook sponsor.
It's like
Hey.
off-peak rates.
Cox and
book
Kings.
for one team, take a second team free type. So, like, everybody.
In response to baseball, we have Cox and Kings. I think that's
Cox and Kings.
Cox and Kings. Okay. All right. All right. That was the end of this episode. Come back next week and we'll talk to you about what happened in the remaining T20 series. And I think that we'll also have maybe an ODI happen. So yes, and maybe some other Indian teams are traveling some other places, Africa, South America. We'll find out, I guess.
India's really become the Harlem Globetrotters of cricket. Yeah.
Salem Globetrotters. Okay.
Meanwhile, Ashwin is playing Raja of Palayambatti Shield, but okay.
All right. That has been us from Bits and Pieces. Everybody say bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. Take care, everyone.